The shy girl stood outside the clinic door, clutching her bag like it was a shield. She had rehearsed this moment at least 100 times in her head, but reality was always scarier than imagination. Her heart thumped like a drum, and her palms felt sweaty even though the hallway was cool and quiet. She took a slow breath, telling herself that this was just a normal checkup, something grown women did all the time, something she shouldn't be terrified of. But her legs still felt stiff as she pushed the door open. Inside, the clinic smelled faintly of sanitizer mixed with something floral, calm yet intimidating. A soft bell chimed as she entered, and the receptionist looked up with a warm smile. The girl tried to smile back, but it ended up looking more like she had swallowed an ice cube. She stepped closer and gave her name, her voice coming out much quieter than she intended. The receptionist didn't seem to mind, though. She typed something on the computer and nodded kindly, telling her to take a seat until the doctor called her. The girl walked to the waiting area, every step feeling like it echoed. She chose a corner chair and sat very straight, as if slouching would attract attention. Her mind raced with every dramatic possibility she could imagine. What if the doctor was strict? What if she asked something embarrassing? What if she said something stupid? She shook her head quickly, trying to stop herself from spiraling, but her anxiety was stubborn. She glanced around the room. A few posters hung on the walls, full of medical diagrams she tried not to look at for too long. A small air conditioner hummed softly. The clock on the wall ticked slowly, almost mocking her. She checked her phone, then put it away, then checked it again, all in the span of 1 minute. Her thoughts shifted to her decision to finally book this appointment. It wasn't easy. She had postponed it many times, always finding excuses, always saying next week. Until next week turned into next month. But today she had gathered every bit of courage she had. She wanted to take care of herself, even if it meant facing her fears. Just as she began mentally practicing possible answers to basic questions, the door to the doctor's office clicked open. A voice called her name gently. She froze for half a second, feeling her stomach flip, but then she stood up. Her legs trembled slightly, yet she forced herself to walk forward. This was it, the moment she had been dreading, but she knew she had to go through it. She inhaled deeply, pushed her shoulders back, and stepped inside. The moment she stepped into the room, she felt her breath catch in her throat. She had expected someone older, someone with gray hair, thick glasses, and a voice filled with years of medical experience. Instead, standing in front of her was a young man who looked like he had stepped straight out of a magazine cover. He wore a white coat with his name neatly embroidered on it, but it was his calm confidence and soft expression that caught her off guard. His smile was polite, professional, but warm enough to make her heart skip a beat. For a second, she wondered if she had entered the wrong room. Maybe he was an assistant or a student or someone who just borrowed the coat for a photo shoot. Her mind scrambled for explanations, but then he extended his hand to greet her, introducing himself as the doctor. His voice was gentle and steady, the kind that instantly made people feel safe, though in her case, it only made her more nervous. She managed a stiff handshake, her fingers cold against his warm palm. He gestured for her to sit, and she obeyed quickly, almost tripping over her own feet in the process. Her cheeks heated up as she sank into the chair, avoiding eye contact. She didn't want him to see the panic swirling in her eyes. She had prepared for medical questions, awkward conversations, maybe discomfort, but she had not prepared for him to be this young or this effortlessly impressive. He couldn't have been more than his late 20s, yet everything about him, from his posture to the way he organized the files on his desk, showed discipline and maturity. As he glanced through her form, she noticed a sleek watch on his wrist, something expensive looking. Even his pen looked like it belonged in a CEO office rather than a doctor's clinic. There was a calm elegance in the way he moved, and she found herself wondering how someone like him ended up here. She remembered overhearing the receptionist mention something about him taking over the clinic after his family passed it down to him. Suddenly, everything made sense. A young millionaire doctor running his own practice. It sounded like a plot straight out of a drama. He began asking her routine questions, nothing complicated, but her brain felt like it had turned into cotton. She answered too quickly, then too slowly, sometimes repeating herself. Every time he smiled reassuringly, it only made her more self-conscious. She kept reminding herself that he was just a doctor doing his job, but her anxiety insisted on turning every second into a spotlight. Still, despite the embarrassment bubbling inside her, there was something comforting about the way he handled the appointment. He didn't rush her or make her feel silly. Even though her nerves danced wildly, a tiny part of her began to relax, realizing she might actually survive this unexpected twist. As the appointment continued, her nerves decided to betray her completely. The doctor asked simple, normal medical questions, but her brain heard them as complicated riddles she had to solve within seconds. When he asked if she had any concerns, she panicked and blurted out 3 different answers at once. First she said yes, then immediately said no, and then panicked again and started explaining that she wasn't sure what she was supposed to be unsure about. Halfway through her rambling, she realized she wasn't making sense, and that only made her talk even faster. The doctor remained calm, nodding gently as if this kind of chaos happened every day. His patience made her even more embarrassed. She could feel her heartbeat in her ears, and every small movement she made felt exaggerated. When he handed her a form to review, she grabbed it too quickly and nearly dropped it. When he offered her a glass of water, she accepted it with both hands, even though one would have worked fine. She was certain that at any moment she might just melt into the floor from second-hand embarrassment caused by herself. Trying to focus, she answered his medical questions, but even those turned into awkward moments. When he asked about her health history, she accidentally gave the name of her favorite snack instead of her medication. He paused, confused for a moment, then gave a soft chuckle. That tiny laugh made her want to disappear, but his tone wasn't mocking. It was gentle, reassuring, like he understood exactly how nervous she was. At one point, he needed her to relax her shoulders so he could continue the examination. She tried, but every muscle in her body felt locked. He spoke softly, guiding her through slow breaths, and surprisingly, it helped. For a moment, she felt a wave of calm wash over her, but then, the silence kicked in. Silence always made her overthink. Her mind instantly began replaying everything embarrassing she had done since she stepped into the clinic. She wondered if he thought she was weird or inexperienced or just incredibly awkward. The thought made her face grow hotter. She tried to distract herself by focusing on the posters behind him, the medical diagrams, the shelves neatly arranged with supplies. Anything to prevent her mind from spiraling further. But despite all her internal chaos, the doctor remained kind, professional, and understanding. His steady voice grounded her when she felt like she might fall apart. He didn't rush her, didn't show impatience, and didn't treat her like an inconvenience. Even when she stumbled over her words or reacted too dramatically, he simply guided her through the process with an ease that made the experience surprisingly bearable. By the time he finished this part of the appointment, she realized something unexpected. She was still anxious, still awkward, but a small part of her felt safer than she had expected to feel. And that tiny bit of comfort was enough to keep her from completely collapsing under her own nervousness. When the examination was finally over, she felt as if she had just finished running a marathon she hadn't trained for. Her legs were slightly weak, her palms warm, and her mind still replaying every single awkward moment in slow motion. She sat quietly as the doctor wrote a few notes on her file, his expression focused yet calm. She wondered how someone could look so composed while she felt like a walking disaster. After a moment, he looked up at her with a gentle smile that softened the sharp edges of her panic. He thanked her for cooperating and explained everything clearly, making sure she understood her results and what to do next. His voice was steady and reassuring, and for the first time since she entered the clinic, she managed to breathe normally. She listened carefully, nodding at the right times, and to her surprise, she even asked a question without stumbling over her words. He answered patiently, treating her question with the same seriousness he gave to all medical matters. As he closed the file, he noticed the nervous way she held her hands together. He spoke again, but this time his tone was even gentler, almost encouraging. He told her she had done really well, and there was nothing to be embarrassed about. He said many people were nervous during their first visit, and that she handled everything better than she thought. Hearing those words felt like someone had lifted a weight off her shoulders. She wasn't sure if he was just being kind, but his sincerity made her believe him. The tension in her chest loosened slightly. When she stood up to leave, she felt more grounded, as if her feet were finally connected to the floor instead of floating in panic. She thanked him softly, hoping her voice didn't sound as shaky as she thought. He opened the door for her, still carrying that calm and confident presence that had intimidated her at first, but strangely comforted her now. As she stepped out, he gave her a friendly nod, a gesture that made her cheeks warm, but in a good way this time. Walking back through the clinic, everything felt different. The posters didn't look as scary, the ticking clock didn't feel as loud, and even the air felt lighter. She approached the reception desk, signed out, and stepped outside into the fresh air. She let out a long breath she didn't realize she had been holding. As she walked home, she couldn't help replaying the appointment in her mind. Yes, the awkward moments were still embarrassing, but they no longer felt catastrophic. Instead, she found herself smiling at how she had survived something she once feared. The young millionaire doctor had not only handled her case with professionalism, but had given her confidence she didn't know she needed. And though she would definitely overthink everything for the next few days, deep down she knew one thing: she had been brave, and she would be braver next time.